Hello and welcome to another Infinity N4 Direct Action Battle Report. This mission is a classic supplies scenario with the classified objectives and HVTs removed, and I renamed it Resources. So these are the objectives for the mission. At the end of the game, control a supply box for 2 objective points for each supply box. Control more than the enemy for 1 objective point. And if the opponent does not control any supply boxes, gain another 1 objective point. And to kill the enemy Keops, gain 2 objective points. Now I made a change to this scenario, and that was to include the Keops as a specialist trooper. I wanted to make the Keops a useful option, allowing players to employ another specialist for this scenario. I made the Keops have the rule that it can carry 2 supply boxes, offering an interesting solution to one's battle plan. After all, the Keops is meant to represent a trooper's unique ability to a mission. So here is the game table. The deployment zones are 8 inches deep, and the tech coffins are represented by the console markers in the middle. Here is my list for the mission. I wanted to try using the Grenza in a fire team. My core fire team consisted of a Grenza with Sakura Hacker and Yelena Kovac. The Puppet Master and Sakura Lieutenant were to remain in my deployment zone. The Holoman was to provide offensive fire support, while my Heckler provides some sort of board control in the midfield. I was interested to see how the cyber mines worked, particularly against my opponent. I intended to use my fire team to grab the supply boxes, use the Puppet Master to lay mines in the midfield to disrupt my opponent's advance, and to use a Heckler for any sneaky plans if possible. This is my opponent's list, and she built this list wanting to learn how to use fire teams. Now I was quite surprised by this list because there's 3 Craziers with Spitfires and 3 Teutonic Knights, and I thought I was going to be wiped off the game table in round 1. On to the game. We both rolled for initiative. I failed and my opponent passed. My opponent chose initiative and kept first turn. I kept deployment and chose to deploy second. I chose my side because it offered more cover to deploy my troops. So this is my opponent's deployment zone because I deployed first. On the right was deployed a core fire team consisting of 2 Crozier paramedics with 1 of the Keops, 1 Crozier with Spitfire, and 1 Teutonic Knight with light shotgun and Panzerfaust. On the left was a Harris fire team consisting of 2 Croziers with Spitfire and 1 Teutonic Knight with submachine gun and was a specialist operative. And the Raven Eye was deployed on top of the red building as ARO duty, and the other remaining Teutonic Knight was down the base of the stairs. In my deployment zone, I deployed my core fire team on the left. The Holoman was on the roof behind the cover to keep him alive in my reactive phase, so he can be used in the active turn. The Puppet Master was deployed on the stairs and had a sliver of line of fire to the leftmost tech coffin. He is a mine layer and deployed a camo token on my far right in front of the deployment zone to prevent any alpha strikes coming down to take out my lieutenant. The Heckler is forward, ready to defend anyone from trying to take the right and center tech coffins. I nominated the Puppet Master as my Keops because I wanted the takeaway order to move him forwards and lay mines in the midfield. Having the second turn allows me to spend a command token to remove 2 regular orders from my opponent's order pool. Counterintelligence allows me to spend 1 more command token, which I used to place the Puppet Master into suppressor fire. Round 1. So my opponent starts their turn with 4 command tokens, 1 lieutenant order, 1 impetuous order, 7 regular orders, and 1 tactical awareness order. So my opponent chooses not to use their impetuous phase and forfeits their impetuous order. Spending a regular order, they activate the Harris fire team and the Crozier with Spitfire on the red building as the fire team leader. For the first half, they declare move, and the fire team leader moves 1 inch to the left while remaining team members idle. My ARO comes from my Sakura Hacker and is in line of fire to the team leader, and so I declare dodge for the fire team. For the second half, the fire team leader declares ballistic attack towards my Sakura Hacker. And the outcome is Yelena Kovac and Sakura Hacker fail their dodge. The hacker enters dead state and is removed from play, and my core fire team is broken. Spending a regular order, they activate the core fire team. For the first half, they declare move for the fire team, and the team leader moves left to the stairs. The remainder of the fire team do not move. Nil arrows from my end, and the second half they declare move again. This time the fire team leader moves to the front corner of the blue building, and the remainder of the fire team just remain where they are. Spending another regular order, my opponent activates the core fire team again, and for the first half they declare move, and the team leader moves in front of the blue building, and the remainder of the fire team remain where they are. Nil arrows are generated from my end. For the second half they declare move, and the team leader Crozier with Spitfire. For the second half they declare move. The team leader and the Crozier with Spitfire remain idle, and the second Crozier paramedic moves to the left of the blue building, and the Teutonic Knight moves up the stairs. And the outcome is they're just keeping the core fire team in coherency. Spending a regular order, they activate the core fire team again. The Crozier with Spitfire is now the team leader. And for the first half, the fire team declares move, and the team leader moves forward to the parapet. The second paramedic moves forwards towards the corner, and the Teutonic Knight moves to the top of the stairs. The Cheops remains in location. I have arrows, and my Puppet Master declares dodge, and my Grenzer declares flash pulse. For the second half, the team leader declares BS attack, putting 4 shots into the Puppet Master and 1 shot into the Grenzer. And the outcome, the Puppet Master passes his armor saves and guts into partial cover. Guts roll, into partial cover, and the Grenzer stuns the fire team leader. Spending another regular order and to activate the Harris fire team. And for the first half, the team leader declares BS attack against the Puppet Master, and the Puppet Master declares dodge, and the second half the fire team declares idle. And the outcome is the Puppet Master receives 1 wound and enters the unconscious state. Spending a regular order, you activate the core fire team again, and the Cheops is the team leader. For the first half they declare move, and the team leader moves forwards towards the tech coffin, and the remainder of the fire team does not move. Nil arrows are generated. For the second half, the team leader declares extract a supply box, and the outcome is the team leader is successful and gains a supply box. Spending a tactical awareness order, they activate the core fire team again, and the Cheops is the team leader, and they're the only one that can use the tactical awareness order. And then for the first half, the fire team declares move. Now the team leader and the second paramedic move back towards the deployment zone, and the Teutonic Knight goes prone. ARO, my Grenzer declares BS attack against the Crozier with Spitfire. And for the second half, the fire team declares dodge. The outcome of this is the Crozier with Spitfire passes dodge and goes prone, and the Cheops passes and moves back another 2 inches towards the base of the stairs, and the second paramedic fails the dodge. Spending the last regular order, they activate the core fire team again, and the Crozier with Spitfire as the team leader. For the first half, the fire team declares move. The second paramedic moves back behind the building. The Cheops moves to the base of the stairs, and the Teutonic Knight and Crozier with Spitfire remain prone and do not move. Nil arrows are generated, and for the second half, the fire team declares move, and the Cheops moves behind the building. And the outcome is that 1 supply box is moved to safety in my opponent's deployment zone. My round 1. So I start my turn with 2 command tokens, 1 lieutenant order, and 5 regular orders. Spending a regular order, I activate the Hollow Man, and for the first half I declare move, and move up into cover. My opponent has a couple of arrows. The Crozier with Spitfire declares BS attack, and the Ravenite officer declares a flash pulse. For the second half, my Hollow Man declares BS attack against the Crozier with Spitfire. And the outcome is the Ravenite fails to stun the Hollow Man, and the Crozier with Spitfire enters dead state and is removed from the game table. Spending another regular order, I activate the Hollow Man again. This time I declare BS attack against the Ravenite officer. And Ravenite officer declares Flash Pulse as their ARO. And for the second half, I just declare idle. And the outcome is the Ravenite receives 1 wound and enters unconscious state. Spending a regular order, I activate the camo token. For the first half, I declare move and move to the base of the stairs. My opponent's ARO is the Teutonic Knight with submachine gun declares discover. For the second half, I declare place deployable. And the outcome is that Teutonic Knight fails to discover. Spending another regular order, I activate the camo token again. For the first half, I declare move and move into silhouette contact with the tech coffin. I have a couple of AROs, the Teutonic Knight with submachine gun and the Teutonic Knight with light shotgun, both declare discover. And for the second half, I declare place deployable. And the outcome is that both Teutonic Knights fail to discover. Spending another regular order, I activate the camo token again. I declare move and go prone and move into the corner. And for the second, the ARO, the Teutonic Knight with light shotgun delays the ARO. And for the second half, I declare extract supply box. Now, because my opponent chose to delay, they get to have another attempt at an ARO, and the Teutonic Knight with light shotgun declares BS attack. And this is because I had to roll to extract a supply box, and every time you roll a dice you come out of camo. So the outcome is that the Teutonic Knight misses and the Heckler reveals himself and claims a supply box. And I spend the command token and reform the core fire team with the Grenza and Yelena Kovac, and I make the Grenza the fire team leader. I spend the lieutenant order, activating the Grenza using the NCA skill. And for the first half, I declare move and the Grenza moves behind the building, and Yelena Kovac moves down the stairs. I have a ARO from my opponent, which is the Crozier with Spitfire, declares BS attack. And the second half, the fire team declares dodge. And the outcome is the Crozier with Spitfire misses. And it turns out my opponent forgot that it was prone, and anyway the results do not affect the game, and my fire team failed to dodge. Round 2. So my opponent begins this round with 4 command tokens, 1 lieutenant order, 2 impetuous orders, 7 regular orders, and 1 tactical awareness order. During the impetuous phase, my opponent spends 1 impetuous order and activates the Teutonic Knight with light shotgun. For the first half, they declare move and move the full 6 inches forward. There's a few AROs here. My Heckler does not declare any AROs. My Hollow Man declares BS attack, and my Cybermine explodes. And for the second half, the Teutonic Knight declares BS attack using the Panzerfaust against the Hollow Man. And the outcome is the Hollow Man enters unconscious state level 1, and the Teutonic Knight enters isolated and immobilized B state. The second impetuous order is spent and activates the Teutonic Knight with submachine gun. And for the first half, declares move up to the full 6 inches forward. And the Heckler declares a place deployable. And the second half, my opponent declares move again. And the outcome is the Heckler places another camo token to defend himself, because I thought the opponent would be coming up over that parapet. Spending a regular order, I activate the Teutonic Knight with a submachine gun again. And for the first half declares move and moves into the corner of the building with the partial cover. Nil arrows, and for the second half declares move and goes prone. Spending a regular order, activate the same Teutonic Knight with submachine gun. Declares move, and in the prone state moves 3 inches up the stairs. Nil arrows, and for the second half declares move and moves a further inches in prone up the stairs. And the outcome is my opponent is very carefully moving towards the attack coffin. Spending a regular order, activating the Teutonic Knight with submachine gun again. Still prone, they declare move and move to the top of the stairs. Nil arrows are generated, and the second half declares move and moves into silhouette contact with the attack coffin. And the outcome is that the specialist operative is in location to extract a supply box. So, spending another regular order, activating the same Teutonic Knight. For the first half declare idle, I have nil arrows, and my opponent declares extract a supply box for the second half. Now the outcome is the Teutonic Knight fails to extract a supply box. So spending a regular order, doing the same thing again essentially, declaring idle, nil arrows, and declare extract a supply box. And the outcome is that this time the Teutonic Knight does pass and gains a supply box. Spending a regular order, activating the same Teutonic Knight. Declare move in the first half, and while still prone, back into the nearest corner. Nil arrows, and for the second half declares idle. And the outcome is that they're just trying to secure the Teutonic Knight in a more suitable position for any counterattacks. Spending the last regular order, activating the core fire team. The Crozier with Spitfire is the team leader. And for the first half the fire team declares move, and the team leader cancels prone state and stands up. The Cheops goes prone and remains in location. And the Teutonic Knight turns to face down the stairs. Nil arrows are generated from myself. And for the second half the fire team declares idle, and basically the outcome is to set up the core fire team to defend itself. My round 2. So I'll begin this turn with 1 command token, 1 lieutenant order, and 4 regular orders. Spending the lieutenant order, I activate the Grenzer because they have the NCO skill, and I use that to get ready to move the core fire team. So the first half I declare move, and the Grenzer moves to the corner of the building, and Yelena Kovac moves downstairs and halfway along the back wall of the building. Nil arrows are generated. And for the second half, I declare move again, and the Grenzer moves 4 inches along the wall, and Yelena Kovac moves to the corner previously occupied by the Grenzer. Spending another regular order, I activate the Grenzer, and this time I declare move, and the Grenzer moves to the front corner of the building in partial cover. And Yelena Kovac moves within 1 inch behind the Grenzer. My opponent gets an ARO, and the Crozier with Spitfire declares BS attack. And for the second half, I declare BS attack with a Grenzer against the Crozier with Spitfire. And the outcome is the Grenzer passes armor saves and stays in location. Spending a regular order, and again activating the core fire team with the Grenzer as team leader. For the first half declare move, and the Grenzer moves behind the central building. And Yelena Kovac moves behind the hollow board. My opponent gets a ARO with a Crozier and Spitfire and declares BS attack, and they put 1 shot into the Grenzer in the open and 1 shot into Yelena in the open. For the second half, Grenzer declares BS attack against the Crozier at the beginning of their move. And the outcome is the Crozier passes the armor save and passes the guts roll to go prone. And Yelena Kovac passes her armor save. Spending a regular order, I activate the core fire team again with the Grenza as the team leader. And for the first half I declare move and move the Grenza around the stairs of the central building. And Yelena Kovac moves around the hollow board to the position that was previously occupied by the Grenza. Nil arrows are generated, and for the second half the fire team declares move again and the Grenza moves to the first stair. And Yelena Kovac moves further along the right side of the building, remaining outside of line of fire. And the outcome is I'm setting up to engage the Teutonic Knight on the roof in my next order. So, spending my last regular order, I activate the core fire team with the Grenza. For the first half I declare move and the Grenza moves up to the third stairs. And Yelena Kovac remains in position. Now the Teutonic Knight with a submachine gun gets an arrow and declares dodge. And for the second half I declare BS attack, and the Grenza uses the light flamethrower twice because he gets +1B for the light flamethrower. And Yelena Kovac idles. And the outcome is the Teutonic Knight passes the dodge roll. Round 3. So my opponent began the final round with 4 command tokens, 1 lieutenant order, 6 regular orders and 1 tactical awareness order. My opponent decided not to use the impetuous phase. Spending a regular order, they activated the Teutonic Knight with submachine gun. For the first half declared BS attack against the Grenza. And my Grenza declares BS attack with a light flamethrower for the ARO. And the second half Teutonic Knight declares idle. And the outcome is the Grenza passes an armor save and stays in location. The Teutonic Knight receives 1 wound. Spending a regular order, activating the Teutonic Knight with submachine gun again. And this order is pretty much the same as the previous order. So the first half BS attack against the Grenza, Grenza attacks with the flamethrower, and the Teutonic Knight declares idle. So the outcome is both the Grenza and Teutonic Knight enter unconscious state. The Teutonic Knight having their last wound gone, and the Grenza only having 1 wound. Spending a regular order, activate the core fire team with the Crazy Spitfire as team leader. For the first half, declare move, and the team leader cancels prone state and stands up, and the remainder of the fire team idle. For the ARO, the heckler declares dodge, and the second half, the fire team declares idle. So the outcome is the heckler passes the dodge roll and moves into the corner, and the Crozier with Spitfire is now on ARO duty. Spending a regular order, activate the Crozier with Spitfire, this time the one on the left, and declares move and moves behind the isolated and immobilized Teutonic Knight. Nil arrow, and second half declares move behind the partial cover that's in front of the red building, which you're unable to see here. Spending a regular order, activate the same Crozier with Spitfire again. For the first half declare move and moves into partial cover of the central building. And Yelena Kovac gets to declare dodge, and for the second half the Crozier declares idle. And the outcome is Yelena Kovac passes the dodge roll and moves up to the corner, remaining outside of line of fire from the Crozier. Spending the last regular order, activate the same Crozier with Spitfire, and this time it's an entire order skill and declares climb and climbs up in silhouette contact with the supply box. Now for an ARO, the cyber mine detonates, and that happens when the Crozier comes over the parapet, and the heckler and Yelena declare no arrows. And the outcome is the Crozier enters the isolated state, but in contact with the supply box. And from here, my opponent decides to end her turn there. My final turn and final round. So for my final round, I'll begin with 1 command token, 1 lieutenant order, and 3 regular orders. Spending a regular order, activate Yelena Kovac. And for the first half, declare move, and I move around the corner of the building. For an AROs, both the Teutonic Knight and the Closier declare reset. And for the second half, Yelena declares BS attack using a chain cult against the Teutonic Knight. And the outcome is a Crozier and Teutonic Knight fail to reset, and the Teutonic Knight takes 1 wound. Spending a regular order, activating Yelena Kovac again. First half, declare idle. ARO, the Teutonic Knight and Crozier declare reset. And for the second half, I declare BS attack using the chain cult again against the same Teutonic Knight. And the outcome is the Crozier and Teutonic Knight both fail to reset, and the Teutonic Knight takes another wound and enters the unconscious state. Spending my last regular order, activate Yelena Kovac again. This time I declare move for the first half of my order and move around to gain line of fire to the Crozier with Spitfire on top of the blue building. My opponent gets an ARO, and that Crozier declares ballistic attack against Yelena Kovac. And for my second half, Yelena declares BS attack against the Crozier. And the outcome is that Crozier takes 1 wound and enters the unconscious state. And that is the end of the game. So here's the final game table layout, and my opponent has 2 supply boxes under their control, while I just have 1. Now, the after action review. So, the objective points for end of the game for controlling a supply box. For each supply box that we have, I scored 2 objective points, and my opponent scored 4 objective points. Controlling more supply boxes than the enemy, my opponent scored another 1 objective point. For the enemy not controlling the supply box, we both don't qualify for that because both sides scored a supply box. And to kill the enemy Cheops, my opponent scored 2 objective points. So the total scores is 7-2, with the 7 going to military orders for the win. And the remaining army points are 55 for Tunguska and 83 for military orders. Okay, so lessons learned for myself. I think I played this mission well, despite my rules mistakes, which I'll explain later, and what I was up against in my opponent's army list. I was facing 3 Spitfires and 3 Teutonic Knights at 150 point level. I found this intimidating. My selection to use a Hollowman to remove obvious threats in my active turn helped to move the Grenzer into the midfield and challenge the center tech coffin. The Grenzer Fort Observer is a very useful trooper. Flash Pulse is great in ARO duty. Stunning an enemy opponent prevents them from performing attacks in their turn, and having the NCO skill leverages the ability for a specialist to use the Lieutenant Order, which can be useful in claiming objectives or to move into a more favourable position. Despite the minimal orders I had going into round 1, I was efficient in my orders as I could possibly be. This is something I'm finding when playing with Tunguska. Because of the minimal number of troopers available, and due to the high points cost, it forces me to play a more efficient game with the army that I have. For fixes, as you can see there, read the frigging rules. So I need to read the rules more thoroughly. This game did teach me this. For example, when extracting a supply box, the box is in silhouette contact with the trooper. However, it is not picked up by the miniature automatically. I need to spend a short skill to pick up the supply box after it has been extracted. I was under the assumption that once it was extracted, the trooper had the supply box automatically. Another rule I need to read up on is cyber mines. After reading the rules again after this game, I realised that they are not EM ammunition. I always thought cyber mines were an upgraded version of the EM mines, but that's not the case. So they cannot isolate any trooper. Cyber mines only cause immobilised B state, and they only detonate when heavy infantry, tags or remotes move inside their detonation range. Only EM mines cause isolated state, and if the trooper affected is a heavy infantry, tag or remote, then they also become immobilised. So this has changed my thoughts on the cyber mines. Core fire teams is another rule that I need to remember, which I'll remember from now on. is that their core fire teams have a minimum of 3 troopers and a maximum of 5. So when I decided to recreate the core with my Grenza and Yelena Kovac, technically this was illegal for the game. So a core fire team cannot consist of 2 models, it must be at least 3 models. And I'm sort of annoyed with myself for not knowing these simple rules already, since I've been playing Tunguska for a few months now. Not just these recorded games, but also the games in between. I should have picked up on that already. The threat for this game was the Panzerfaust. 1 hit was enough to put down my Holoman into unconscious state level 1. And that was 1 successful hit with 3 failed armor saves from my end. So it did become a very powerful weapon. Okay, lessons learned from my opponent. Now my opponent, since playing her list of military orders, has realised that they need to maximise the support weapon cost. And she's found that increasing the support weapon cost as much as possible makes for a more competent list going into games. And my opponent has found that the military orders work better if using a higher support weapon cost. Her fix is fire team considerations. So she was testing out the fire teams for military orders this game. Normally my opponent plays them as a vanilla faction, and she just wanted to understand the fire team rules. So when using a core fire team, possibly having a spare Crozier to reform the fire team into a 5 trooper team to prevent the attrition rate in the first round affecting the following rounds. And also considering using a trooper with NCO skill in a fire team to utilise the lieutenant order. My opponent thought having the lieutenant in the fire team means the fire team could benefit from it. This is not the case, which was discussed after the game. Only a trooper with NCO skill has that ability to use the lieutenant order in a fire team. And for threat was the Heckler Killer Hacker. So from my opponent's perspective, they thought the Heckler was the biggest threat in the game. And my opponent did not understand that the Killer Hacker is different from a normal hacker. And if she knew this difference beforehand, then she would have been more aggressive with the Teutonic Knights. My opponent was worried that the heavy infantry becoming isolated or immobilized during the game. But when I explained to her that the Killer Hacker is purely designed to take out other hackers, this made her realize that kind of role is not as threatening as it was perceived. So that is the end of the report. Please let me know in the comments what I did correctly or incorrectly, and feel free to share your thoughts and observations of the game. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.